All right, here we go. Let's open up our contact sheet. So I'm going to do open recent, contact sheet, secret worlds. It should be right there. Otherwise, you can go through your folders and open it that way. But I'm just going to open it here because I opened it recently. And this is just because I have the crop tool selected. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to actually hit Z, or the zoom for magnifying glass. I took these pictures in college, and one of my takeaways looking at them now, a couple of years later, is that why didn't I take more pictures? I have, maybe 10 pictures here of these horses. I could have gotten some dynamite pictures, but I just didn't stick around long enough. I only took a couple of pictures, and I don't know that I got the one that I needed to get out of this really cool setting with the kind of the foggy background. But anyways, I'm going to look further along here. I've got some kind of urban ones down here. I've got this kind of barn setting. Let's try one of these horse pictures, and 1408, so I can close this. I can go to File, Open, and we're going to find 1408. Now this CRW stands for Camera Raw. Some of your cameras might be able to do that. It gives you a few extra options before it gets shrunk down into the JPEG format. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is what? You know what you're going to do? You're going to go to File, Save As, Photoshop, and then last name, first initial, Secret Worlds, and then the date. Okay, make sure it says Photoshop. You might have changed it to Photoshop PDF from before. And then you can just click Save is fine. So now I've got that. My next step, I'm going to copy the background, right? Another safety there for non-destructive editing. Now I'm going to try to crop. Now pay attention here because we're going to crop a little bit differently than we did the past. I'm going to add another step here. Okay, so I'm going to crop, and I want it to be exactly 5 by 7 inches, or a 5:7 ratio, so that I can print it at 5 by 7 inches. In order to do that, under ratio, I'm just going to go to this standard 5:7. Okay. Now the problem is it's vertical. I don't want it to be cropped vertically. This picture was taken horizontally. So in order to get around that, these two little arrows swap the numbers. So now if I use the rule of thirds, I can kind of use this, move it up, and maybe I want that horse's head to be right there at the rule of thirds, and actually the two of them are kind of each there. Kind of interesting. So we've got that. I want to straighten it. So I'm going to click along the horizon here. It's not necessarily going to be perfect, but it'll help. Okay. So we'll hit Enter or Return, and there we go. So you've gotten to this point before. You've played now with the next step. So Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and Levels. Make sure you go under this Level option. Don't go under Image Adjustments. That's going to be destructive editing. So I'm going to go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and Levels. Right now this is fine for the title. Down the road, if you add a bunch of them, you might tweak that title later. I'm just going to click OK. And here you have, it's called a histogram that comes up. A histogram shows you how much light and how much dark pixels there are in the image. These ones are kind of in the middle. So you can see there's mostly in the middle, no whites in there, maybe a couple darks, a couple real like pure black, pure white on this end. So we're going to adjust the color on this and see what can happen. So I'm going to go to, instead of just adjusting all of the image at once, so if I do this, it's going to brighten it. This is going to darken it. Instead of doing it all at once, RGB stands for red, green, and blue. And so I'm going to adjust each of those channels. Light on a computer screen is made up of red, green, and blue. We'll talk more about that later. So I'm going to adjust each one. Red here. Oh man, there's like no lights on the red file. And that to some degree is normal because it's mostly blues and things like that. But you want to have that so that any of the reds in there are at a good spot. So I'm going to drag this over, and right now it looks kind of funky. We'll see what happens. And in fact, I can't really tell when it gets to the wrong spot. So I'm going to hit Option, and we're good. Oh, there's a little bit that's overexposed there. So a little bit like that is okay. I'm going to actually stop right here. And then let's check the dark side. Okay, you can move this a little bit if you need to. And yeah, we'll leave it right there. You don't want to have it overexposed. It's okay if there's a teeny couple spots that are underexposed. Okay, so let's check out my greens. Right now it looks way too red. I'm going to hold down Option, bring this down. Okay, we'll go just above that. Okay, it's looking better, but it's still kind of off color-wise. Hold down Option. Now watch what happens if I go too far. Not liking that at all. Okay, so let's go back. Now sometimes you'll be able to make a creative decision with this, but right now I'm trying to adjust the color so it's exactly how I want it to be. So now I'm going to go to blue and watch what happens. Hold down Option, go just above before it gets too bright. Over here. Okay. All right, so we went with one tool from this to this. Okay, so there were actually no true whites in this image until I corrected the levels. Now you might say you want that blue tint. Well, that would be a decision you would need to make. In this case, I want it to be more accurate colors, so you get the actual reds and browns in there, and it looks a lot more sharp.